It is the instant match reaction for what's becoming a routine for Everton. They lost 3-2 at Aston Villa. Again, having been 2-0 up, it is 4 defeats to start the season. 13 goals conceded. They are bottom of the Premier League. I am Matt Jones. Joining me is Dave Downey. I just, Dave, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's just, I'm staggered. I'm not staggered.
Yeah.
I'm angry. I'm sort of laughing. It's just such a mix of emotions, such a plethora of different
Mm.
feelings about this team and this football club. But here we are, sat here again, and Everton are the butt of the joke. Everton are the laughing stock, and they've been made to look daft, haven't they? How do you feel?
Yeah, it feels like a sense of inevitability, this now, doesn't it? And I don't know, going away from home, I didn't expect much at all. Away at Villa, I didn't expect anything when we went to Spurs either. It felt like two similar away games, given the way in which we are, the way in which we play away from home anyway. But to do this again after what I thought was such a really good first half for us, and a lot of people on social media disagree with me, but I thought the way in which we set our stall out, the thing that you mentioned there in terms of like it's hard to unpack mentally this, because that first half it felt like Dyche had found a way in which we should be playing. If it, and we were saying that after 80 odd minutes against Bournemouth. I think the irony is the things that come in to shoot ourselves in the foot are the things that Sean Dyche is meant to be good at, and that's what really it damages us so much, because I'm starting to think, and look, there's obviously been questions about, and we've done a couple of pods with questions about Dyche and his future and whatnot. Um, I don't. I mean, I know he's got limitations, but to not be able to see a game out when you're 2-0 up. And look, I know in this one we went 2-0 up a lot earlier than we conceded against Bournemouth. But to get to a stage in a game where you know how to defend, you've made your career based on how you're going to put 10 men behind the ball and defend properly and have an outlet. It just looks so amateur at times. It looks so predictable at times. And Villa and Emery was fuming at times on the side there, because Villa had the ball far too much but lost it themselves. He wasn't fuming because Everton were doing such a really good job at not conceding the goals. And it just felt like it was going to happen. Look, the winner that gets scored is an absolute screamer. It's probably going to be one of the goals of the season. But before that, mate, the two goals we concede, the manner in which we concede them, and then I don't know what you're thinking about. There's a psychological issue here with these lads that are already on the pitch. When we get to a stage of 1-0 up, 2-0 up, as we've seen, what do you think those lads are looking at each other and thinking? What's their manager, again? Somebody who's made their reputation as a manager that is quite stern at what he does with players, and very much acts as if he's some sort of uh, head teacher in a school or something like that, some sort of different analogy where he's like head of whatever it is that he manages. Um, and it just seems to me that when he's gone and got them into training across the international break, or immediately at the next day after Bournemouth, I'm sat there after this game thinking, what's he said to these lads? What's been how he's managed this side? And look, there's many limitations to Everton with a side that we're a bottom half side in the Premier League, and that's putting it mildly, isn't it? Let's be honest. We've been in relegation fights for 3 years now. This looks like it's going to be the fourth, being bottom of the league after 4 games. And it doesn't seem to me, Matt, that we've got a manager that can think outside of the bubble in which he's created in his career, like he did at Burnley. And I think the Premier League's a division that finds you out eventually. And what we've seen so far this season, it looks very much like people have looked at Everton and thought, yeah, we pretty much know how to get past these. We know what to do against these. And eventually they're going to fall inside 90 odd minutes. And that was that felt harder than Bournemouth to me personally, because at times I thought Everton looked really good. The shape we had looked really good as well. How we were setting up, Calvert-Lewin looked like back to his best. very much. I think a lot. The most praise I can say for that game, Matt, is it was very Jekyll and Hyde. And if that's the best thing I can say about it, it shows how poor we actually are in the position that we're in.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel in certain aspects of that game was Jekyll and Hyde, and I was really criticised, certainly at full time, for saying that Everton played well in the first half, and I think it's something you'll quite easily lose when you see what's happened. That felt inevitable to so many of us in the second half of that. But on Dyche, I mean, the talk about him and the talk that's sort of been aimed at him for, I mean, he said some daft things, hasn't he? The substitution thing as well. There's been a lot of issues that he's put on his own plate. Today's the same. And I think you can reference as well, or ask the question of what he's been doing around these lads. How's he setting them up? What's he saying to them? What he'd like to see? Because in that first half, I think the side of Everton's limitations largely did what you would want to see. A lot of people complain about the amount of possession we have. It's one of the things we succeeded with last season. We've succeeded with under Sean Dyche, is we're able to absorb a level of the opponents having the ball far more than us. They kept on showing it on Sky that we had, I don't know, like 20 odd possession in the entirety of the game in general. Everton have been able to absorb that and do better with that. We won away games doing that successfully, and that's where I'll agree with Dyche to a certain extent, that he's able to go and do that, and Everton are able to go and get results from that. The annoyance there is the way in which we concede goals now, and this is the main concern I have with Sean Dyche, and why I said I don't think he'll end the season as Everton manager. And if he consists with not only the results but the way in which he's setting things up, then I said in our predictions a few weeks ago that I don't think he'd see out to Christmas, and that's because it just feels like he's so limited with what he does and what he sets up. And I think that you've got a Premier League, you've got a league here that doesn't suffer fools. And he's starting to look like one. He's starting to look like a manager that has nothing else than what has effectively made his career, and that is just about keeping teams in the Premier League, which he did with Burnley.
Like you said, Dave. Like you said, like even that's gone. Like if you look back to last season, like there's a very, very obvious way in which we got results, wasn't there? We had two spells where we won 4 in a row, and then we had a spell at the end of the season where we won 5 in a row at home. And the basis of those results were keep clean sheets at home, score first, get ahead, and just see the game out. That was the method in all of those wins, wasn't it? Like every single win followed that exact blueprint, unless I'm forgetting. But I don't think I'm wrong on that. That was the way home for Dyche and Everton. That was the way to those 2 runs last season that got us to whatever points total we got in real terms. But that seems to have just disappeared now. And I don't know the stats behind it in terms of how many times we've lost leads on the Dyche, etc., etc. But we can see 13 goals in 4 games. I think Les put in on Twitter there or in another group that's almost like the quarter of the amount of goals we conceded in the entirety of last season already. So that's broken. That's one thing that's broken. Jared Brandwaite is obviously a miss, but he clearly can't set the team up right at the moment. The shape, I know you saying the shape before was all right. I disagree to an extent. Like, as much as we were on 2-0 up, I always felt like Villa were going to score goals and create chances based on what had happened in the first 20 minutes. It wasn't like one of those games where they've got loads of the ball, but we're keeping them at arm's length, we're stifling them, we're frustrating them. They were getting openings on a regular basis. So we can't stop teams from creating chances and scoring goals against us. That's one of his strings to his bow gone. And the other is when you do get ahead, keeping all the leads, and that has gone as well. Like the last two games in such spectacular fashion. I don't think tonight probably wasn't as bad as Bournemouth because Villa are a better side. We're away from home. There's injuries obviously in the game as well. That's fine, but you put them back to back, and it's an obvious pattern, isn't it? It's something that it's something that is clearly going to leave a mark on these players now. And if Sean Dyche at Everton needs to get an Everton team to go 3-0 up in a match before we can get a result. We can even think about getting a point. Then we're in big trouble. Like that is a big problem, because I don't think at any point in his managerial career he's shown himself able to do that. And I put on Twitter before, it's blown up a little bit, but if a Sean Dyche team can't stop the opposition from conceding, and a Sean Dyche team can't hold on to leads, there's not much point in them being here. Like genuinely, and I think that's why tonight, I think maybe for myself and maybe for quite a few people, it will be a threshold crossed, and it seems to be that way, because you can talk about knee-jerk reactions all you want. You can talk about the end of last season and the job he did and the circumstances he did, but I don't think it's knee-jerk to call for a change potentially when we've lost our first 4 games of the season in embarrassing style. Let's be honest. To be 2-0 up twice and lose is awful. To get smashed at home against Brighton and smashed away at Spurs is awful. It's been an absolutely horrendous start to the season. We can go back to last season as well. We haven't won away from home this calendar year. That's an issue which has gone under the radar. We've won 5 in 26 games. That's been an issue. So I think it's getting to the point now where it's those conversations. I don't know if anybody's having at the club. Don't get me wrong, but those conversations among supporters, I don't think you're going to get eyebrows raised necessarily when it's brought up the prospect of making a change, because it's not just about tonight for me. I don't think tonight was maybe as much on the manager as other losses, or maybe the Bournemouth game, because I think that Villa are better. There were injuries. We had chances, fine, but it's more about the body of work, and how you can call it that for me, and how we've ended up here. And I'm just like I said at the start, I'm just so confused and just don't have a clue on how to feel, really.
No, that's right. I think that you've epitomised the whole situation right now, and going back to what I started going at before, was this league will find you out. That you can't keep repeating yourself thinking that this is the way it's going to work. Look back at what he did at Burnley. He still went down with them. People saying he did a fantastic job given the financial issues they had. They couldn't go and spend a penny on a decent Premier League standard player. Well, that's fine. But what happened in the end was that you went down because you didn't change anything. First, where you would give him a level of credit is he was able to keep them up despite the fact he had nothing really to work with. Coming to a club like us initially, you would be saying, well, that's not good enough. But keeping us up straight away is the first thing that he has to do. That's at the top of the list, that whoever was that hired him, and because we seem to have this consistent chat about who's there to sack him, who's there to get a new manager. You're at a point now, and I think you're spot on, Matt. I don't think it's a knee-jerk reaction to say or suggest that after 4 games, anybody who hasn't watched Everton and they've heard what we're saying right now would be like, those 2 are lunatics wanting to sack your manager 4 games in. But it's not just this 4 games, is it? It's like you referred to, how we survived towards the end of last season, had that decent run of form. Was a lot of different reasons, but we largely played the same. You can't carry on doing that. He looks to me that I see him like even in a physical sense, when I look at him on the touchline, he's just giving the same old shouts to players, doing the things that people have stereotyped about him, because he's this fella with a voice that sounds like mine now for screaming at the telly. He's somebody who's physically trying to put like his imprint onto games, and it's so predictable for me, Matt. I mean, I spoke about this. I think it was after Brighton in the first game. Do you think that Unai Emery? Do you think that any team that play against us have to have a difficult meeting beforehand, having a look at who they're playing against? I certainly don't think so. I don't think so. No, I don't think. If we got next Leicester, Steve Cooper there, who's been a quite woeful manager, got sacked by Forest. No idea how he got the Leicester job. Going forward this coming week, I can't imagine he's spending as much time as he would on probably 15, 16, 17 other sides in the division. and saying, look what these do. We need to do this. We need to do this. We need to do that. I don't think it's too difficult a thing for him to say to his players, this is what we need to do. And that, in me, shows you the limitations that Sean Dyche has got as an Everton manager. So I'm completely with you there. I think it's something that needs to be considered at the very least, because maybe we're bottom of the league 4 games in and conceded 13 goals on the main, as you said, repeating it a little bit here, but on the thing that he's built his managerial career on is strong defensive structure. And when Everton lose games because we don't score goals, then you think, okay, if we go and get a point somewhere, then that's what Everton need to do, is not lose. That keeps you in the Premier League, is not losing, largely. The amount of points that have kept us up show you that. They indicate that in the last few seasons. When you've got somebody who can't keep the goals that they score because of the thing that he says that is there, that is what the mind fuck is for me.
Yeah.
You go goals ahead, you go 2-0 up. Sean, what do you normally do here, mate? Is it maybe don't tell him what the score is, and you can just put Everton out and play Everton like we've seen them actually successfully keep clean sheets? That's where, like you started the pod there, saying that it's sort of you don't know what you're thinking about this, and it really is. It's a minefield of thinking how Everton sort themselves out if he's still a manager.
Yeah, I think what I'll distinguish it to Bournemouth a bit is that I think against Bournemouth, like they score and everyone just loses their heads. Players, manager, fans probably as well to an extent. Watching it all unfold. But I think that tonight was about. And listen, I appreciate he's not got Branthwaite, didn't have Coleman from the start there, but that tonight for me was about structure and setting up. And I know he said in the press conference, it's a myth that managers have time to work with players during international duty, but that didn't look like a team to me that was going to get close to keeping a clean sheet or get close to frustrating Villa. And listen, I'm not expecting us to go there and just do a job on them because they are really good and they've got, as we saw tonight, they've got some really good forward players. But it felt like that was more of a technical structural breakdown today rather than Bournemouth, which felt like a mental psychological collapse at the end there when they conceded. And it all happened very, very fast. It was like sand slipping through the fingers. That tonight wasn't really one of them. I think we score. Obviously, McNeil does well, doesn't he? Nicks the ball, scores. We get another one from a set piece, fine. But the game was still wide open. It felt like so. Like we were like going forward and creating loads of chances. Say we created 6 good chances and gone 2-0 up. Yeah, I could kind of understand us saying, all right, let's turn this into a basketball game then, and let's try and you have a go, we have a go sort of game, because we are creating chances. We scored 2 goals, I think, from the only 2 chances we had in the game, and it just felt like we were never settled at 2-0. It felt like obviously after they score, so we go 2-1 again, we're never really settled at all. I just didn't feel like we were secure at any point in the game. And listen, that might just be, people who are neutrals might have been watching on thinking differently. Well, I don't know. I might just be, thinking back to last week. And as soon as you go to 2-0, you saw everyone on social media, you have 2-0. So, it was 2-0 Everton. What could possibly go wrong now? That was the gag, wasn't it, at that point? But I just don't get that sense that we're a well coached or well drilled or organised cohesive team at the moment. It feels like there are a lot of, and then there were at the end a lot of square pegs in round holes in various positions. But from the off there, if you're going through our best 11, what your Branthwaite away from it really. Young and Cole, he probably plays one on the other, doesn't he? But other than that, that's our best side, isn't it? That's his 11 he picks from, and it didn't feel from the start like there were any real sense that we were going to trouble Villa from a defensive point of view. Do you want to take any pods? Are we going to do that? Pods, you said Calvert-Lewin, Dave, and he missed that big chance, didn't he? A 2-1, which is the glaring thing there. Obviously, he didn't have his eye on Konsa, but he's obviously a millimetre or so from making it 3-3. Scores his goals from his all-round play was good. It's 2-2 for him now. It feels futile talking about it, doesn't it? But he was he was good. He has looked a bit more like his usual self in the last 2 games since the transfer window shut.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, look, it's people who criticise him far too easy and say, look, have you seen that one where he hit the bar? Have you seen the one where he's one-on-one with the goalkeeper and puts it wide? Yeah, they're issues for any strike. Look, I compared him there to Watkins, did exactly the same. Virtually those chances that he missed at the other end of the pitch, he did that a couple of times and well. And he's probably top England striker at the moment, isn't he? Next to Harry Kane. So look, it happens. To us, it's going to be a million times worse, and it's a million times worse because we don't get a result from a game. But I thought is sort of the way in which he looked. He looked thirsty for goals. He looked like he wanted to get involved much more. And again, this people criticise me for saying this, but that's why I thought the first half was largely what Sean Dyche can probably do, given his own limitations, but given what he sees Everton being, and that is getting it to Calvert-Lewin, sticking with him, and having McNeil, which it was today, getting in and around him. And I think we did that pretty well. But again, it's futile when it's pretty comfortable for any side that plays against you to think, oh, that's all we need to stop. That's the only thing we need to stop. We won't concede, and then we can look at how we pull Everton down and go and get our 3 points against them. And that's exactly what I would imagine that Emery was saying when it got to 2-1 at half time. And basically saying to his players, look, these will crumble. These will crumble. We've conceded the goal already. We're at home. All the sort of cliche things you'd say about playing a home match against any club, but particularly against us. I think that he just basically needs to say, just do the same, do what we were doing. And he'd refer to the goals they conceded as being quite fortunate for us to go ahead and do that. Martinez should save that goal that McNeil has a go of. And that header there, you've got a load of 6 foot old players there who could head it in front of Calvert-Lewin. So, I mean, I can't imagine that Emery was thinking, this is all over now. It's going to be really, really difficult for us to go on and win this game. And unfortunately, mate, that in a nutshell is what we are. That's what we've got. Yeah, and that's what manager we have. And I'd just like to make the note that the amount of times when since we've been going since 2012, 12 years we've been going, how many times of any of our podcasts, I think a high percentage of them in relation to talking about Everton manager being, we need to change it, we need to change it, we need to change it. And you'll get a lot of people who reply to us and get involved in listening to what we've said on YouTube and our podcasts, saying, oh, we can't again change the manager. You can't again change the manager. Saying that's become a cliche itself, but it's absolutely true. Lampard needed to go. Benitez needed to go. We're at that level with Sean Dyche, where I think I always refer back to when me, you, and Mose were in my car after we got beat by Burnley. Ironically, Sean Dyche's Burnley beat us 1-0 at home to Goodison, and when we had Ronald Koeman as manager. And we all looked at it and said, yeah, he's got to go now. It was an early stage of a season as well. It wasn't this early, but it was around about October time, maybe. And we were saying, look, you've got to make that change now. And the amount of replies that you get, sort of 50-50, the fans are thinking, yeah, you're absolutely right. You've got to change things. Others are saying, no, you've got to keep him and give him a chance. Jamie Carragher said the same thing today on the commentary. He said that you can't look at sacking a manager at this stage. It's far too early to make those sorts of calls.
It's mad to not be thinking about it now, isn't it? Like they've got to be thinking about it now. Like I think any team in the league, whatever happened, if City had lost their first 4 games of the season, they'd be having, they wouldn't sack him, but they'd be thinking, right, we've got to start fearing and planning for the worst.
At the very least, Matt, absolutely right. At the very, very least, and look, where people, it's that saying, people come out with the cliches, don't they? A lot with, oh, he's got credit in the bank. He's got credit in the bank. Well, that's all well and good, but he seems to have withdrawn it, and now he's taken a loan off the Providence. But because the situation he's in now is, how does he change it? Do fans listening to this have faith in him changing it? No. Do you think, okay, well, if he sticks on to what he did in order to keep the job that he's got, to keep us in the Premier League, you're confident of him doing that? No, because the main way he did that was by not conceding many goals. That's what he's based on. His career is based on that. and we've conceded more goals than anybody else 4 games in. We've got to go to another away game, which is it's a 6-pointer straight away against Leicester. We've got to go away to big sides again. You've already played 2 of them, like Villa. I bet you that you'd be saying that defensively, and that's a tough place to go to. Villa, it's a tough place to go to when you go to Spurs. I accept that, Sean, and perfectly reasonable comment. Where it's so wrong is the way in which you've lost those games. Then Goodison, last season at Goodison, yes, there's certain amounts of pressure on that because every team we play, it's another game's ticked off the list, and we've only got this amount left, that next amount left, that's gone, approaching the end of Goodison. I think that is a bit of an albatross over his neck anyway, because everybody's treating themselves like that at Goodison, and he just seems to me like he hasn't got the. He's inept at various things that should be very simple as a Premier League manager, and that is why what we're talking about right now, and the podcast we did 2 weeks ago, I think me and Les did one about is it time for Dice to go? If you say yeah right now, I don't think you're, out of the realm of saying that's probably the right decision to make if you want to secure that Everton are going to be a Premier League side before we go to Bramley-Moore.
Yeah, it's definitely not a mad shout now, like by any means. Like like I said, you can't look at our record under him over the course of this year and really defend it. Like it's hard, but I think it's it's funny you mentioned that Burnley 1-0 defeat we had at home on the Koeman. Like that tonight sort of feels like the equivalent in some respects, in the sense that I think that game will push a lot of people towards thinking, it could be the right time to change things now because of what we've seen. Let's have it right as well. Like, say if we lost this game tonight in isolation 3-2, like you look back in general on the season and think, like, God, that was a tough one. Being 2-0 up and eventually throwing it away in the manner in which we did is pretty devastating. We've had 2 in 2 games, losing 3-2 when you're 2-0 up in a Premier League game is like horrible, like proper heartbreaking stuff. And like those results in general can like be such a gut punch, and it can take you ages to get over it because of the variety of reasons. We've had 2 in 2 games like that. Like I was really worried about I think I said about the Bournemouth game. The thing that really worried me is that it was going to leave a scar on this team, and the sense that when you've never won a football match if you can lose it from that position, and that's always going to be in the back of your mind. And listen, tonight was different for the reasons that we've spoken about, but as soon as that first goal went in for Villa, did anyone listen to this? I will defy you to think. So anyone would have said, then we know which way this is going. We know exactly how this ends. And at 2-2, you're just waiting for the goal, aren't you? It was just so inevitable it was coming. Maybe not necessarily in the way in which it did, but it was so obvious they were going to score and make it.
But Matt, the question I'd have back to you on that, Matt, is how much you put on him for that? Because there'll be a lot of people who say naturally you can't do anything when he's not on the pitch. And obviously, I think that obviously part of the discussion we're having here is the substitution issue that he's clearly had concerns. There's been serious concerns over how he's tried to change things on the pitch. Are you looking at that? Are you looking at what we've done today there in that goal going in, and you're simply looking at it saying you can't do anything about that? Is Sean Dyche a lot to do with that for you?
I think tonight we were just set up badly from the start, and the injuries just made it worse. Like, and that's kind of where I'd put more on him for Bournemouth because I think he just lost his head completely. Completely after we go 2-1 in the Bournemouth game, and he doesn't make the right changes before they score. Tonight was just one of those where I think we were just set up bad, and then as soon as you've got to take Mikalenko off and bring Garner on the right back, and we go to a back 5, don't we, as well? Like it just. We were set up poorly, and he never rectified it with any of the changes he made, be it enforced ones or tactical ones. So, like tonight was bad from the start, whereas 2 weeks ago was just a total head loss on 86 or 87 or whatever it was. So, and listen, like there's players in there. Jack Harrison makes a shocking mistake at 2-1. Michael Keane on the first 2 goals. That first one, if he's not in the team to head crosses away like that, which is stood up at the back post, what's the point of him? Watkins actually bullies him there. I don't think he's in a great position on the second one either. There's individual mistakes in there, but I think you always reach a point, don't you, where when you see these individual mistakes and players not being in the right place and poorly organised, I think after a while it goes from the players are making individual mistakes to why are they making constant individual mistakes. And again, some people will put that down to the manager, some will, but it's just fed up, just so fed up of being you feel like you've bottomed out sometimes with everything, don't you? And you can't feel any more embarrassment or shame about being associated with them.
where it's really sad with that, Matt, is that it's happened on far too many occasions, hasn't it? Do you know what I mean? How many times we sat here post-match in our time together doing this, and as mates talking about it away from podcasts and whatnot that we do. Can this go any lower? Is there another ring in that ladder that you have to?
We've never had a spell like this, though, have we? Like to start a season with 2 hammerings and then 2. God, I think it's only the second time ever a team's lost.
I think it was 6. I think it's 66 years. They said on Sky that Everton have gone through losing 4. No, was it? Yeah, 3-2 defeats, consecutive 3-2 defeats, having been 2-0 in front. I think that's something like the first time
in the Premier League era. It was Bournemouth, I think in 2019, ironically.
Yeah, exactly.
We've had perilous moments where you've been scared about the future of the club and relegation battles, but I can't remember a spell like this where it's just felt like you're just getting smashed over the head by them, aren't you? Again and again. And Bournemouth was horrific, and then it's like getting back in the ring and getting knocked out again.
That's right. Yeah, and eventually it'll come to a point where you can't keep getting back up. Do you know what I mean? And probably equate that to Everton. You'll equate that to Everton not being a Premier League side if this sort of thing continues as well. But also the other side I've just been thinking of as you were talking there is he's had 2 games there on a plate. And look, I was giving him credit for how he set us up against Bournemouth. Best part, 9/10 of a game, the best that I've seen Everton play under him. He's been more so being given to it by the goals we scored there. You've gone 2-0 up away at one of the top 4 sides in the Premier League, and for want of a better term, you've bottled it. You and the players have bottled it, but in regards to what I'd just love to be a fly on the wall of these conversations. He hasn't having a half time and a full time. Look, we haven't heard his press conference after the game yet, but I think it's really easy for him to come out the way in which he has and deter himself from what he should be saying here and just completely think that we played really well. What we've basically said really, and then not put anything on a decision he should have made.
Well, that tonight's the worst thing. That's worse than losing 4-0, isn't it? That's mad to say. That happening again is worse than getting smashed, isn't it? Because it's
because if you've got inevitability when you go to a game, like I said, when you go into Spurs there, I again going back to what you said, I'd ask anybody, I'd defy anybody to say you think we were going to Spurs and winning that game. Many people saying that we go there and get a point from it or not lose that game. I don't think I'd know many Evertonians, hand on heart would say they were pretty confident we could go there and do that. And a large part of that's down on the manager that we've got, Matt. But he has an easy takeout. He hasn't when you lose the games in which we have. When he said he smelled it, when he said he smelled it, that was the thing that tipped me right over the edge when he was saying, I knew this was going to happen. When a manager's saying that and he hasn't made any fucking changes to a certain point when we were 2-1 down, he didn't make the changes. That's just poor management. He's a poor manager for doing that. Today, again, what can you do? What are you going to do about this, Sean? You need to realise what the vision this is. You've got the experience of doing that when you were at Burnley. We're not there now saying, you were at Burnley, Everton are a much better side here. We're at a point, 4 years in, saying that Everton need to do something that's efficient, that doesn't have us into a relegation fight. I don't care. I said, I think Matt Flush was saying when we did the predictions for the season coming forward, we all had quite a good laugh, quite a bit of fun asking people what they'd say. And I said, look, if we had 14, 15, anything around then, I'd be absolutely delighted if we get to a stage this season where you're able to say Everton are going to be a Premier League side when we go to Bramley-Moore before we're looking at the last 4 or 5 games and still not being secured our safety in this division. How far away does that look from you, Matt? How far away do Everton look right now from being outside of the bottom 3? That is the thing that you put in regards to Sean Dyche and whether you keep him as your manager. Me and Les had this conversation last week. Has he done enough? Has he showed us enough to be able to continue as Everton manager? Take that as an individual question from how he's kept us up. Emphatically, yes, he deserves to still be the Everton manager. You go and do this, the way in which we have in these 4 games, it's been that bad. He's immediately put his future into question from all of us as fans. And before we started this, I had loads of people replying to me saying, that's it now. You've got to get rid of him tonight. You absolutely have to go and do that. Knee-jerk reaction, yeah. Many fans of other clubs, anybody else will be thinking, yeah, you can't say that 4 games in. My word, I don't think he's got the ability to change what he needs to do to get Everton into a place that we absolutely need to be, rather than going into the last 3 weeks of a season still not knowing that we're going to be a Premier League side.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up there, mate. I'm sick of talking about them, to be honest. No, Saturday night. I want to enjoy some Saturday night, and we'll leave it there. Yeah. I'm just speechless after that. If you've got any more coherent thoughts than myself, and you're watching us on YouTube, do leave them in the comments. Always great to see what people have got to say as well. Do hit like, do hit subscribe, and if you're listening to us on iTunes or Spotify, whatever else, do leave us a rating, do leave us a review. It all helps as we try and get the podcast in front of and in the ears of as many people as possible. And we need it at the moment because, come on. Give us after if you've got to this point and you're listening to us still after that game, and we've done this podcast after the second 2-goal collapse in 3 weeks. We deserve a 5-star rating, don't we, Dave?
Happy to hold hands with everybody. Just a big line of us all hold hands.
We deserve a 5-star rating and a like and a subscribe after that. Come on. Doing this on a Saturday night, fucking hell.
It's hard enough after the 3 o'clock games, isn't it? But we're sitting here on a Saturday night. People will question what kind of lives we've got.
But I'll be tea. I'm still at LBT, yeah.
I know, mate. I'm absolutely starving right now. And Everton have fucked up my evening on a Saturday. Sadly, seems that's going to happen quite regularly again, doesn't it, if things don't change?
We'll be back, obviously, in the week. We'll have Blue Monday. We'll have Byline on Tuesday, and then we'll have Southampton in the Cup. Hooray, on Tuesday.
Trophy's coming home, mate. The trophy's coming home.
Anyone who's not watching YouTube, just headbutting my microphone. Yeah.
I'd encourage anyone who's listening to the pod, go and look at YouTube in terms of what Matt's just done and me saying we've got a trophy coming home.
You've broken me today. Like at least Bournemouth, like we were in the pub afterwards and having a drink and whatever, but sat on my own, I was watching that. Jesus Christ.
I'd like to ask that question to our listeners and yourself, and maybe the pod we do in the week. Have you ever, apart from that Newcastle 2-2, where that was crazy what happened with that one, have you ever felt or seen a game like this that hasn't made you feel how you do right now? Because me knowing you for many years, many years I've known you, Matt, and many years we've spoken about Everton getting battered, Derby losses, making a show of themselves. I honestly don't think I've seen you that withdrawn. And
I've never headbutted me microphone before, I don't think.
So you made that, how low? Can we go any lower? Can it go any lower? I'm pretty sure Everton will find a way that it can.
Yeah. Ryan Fraser and Adam Armstrong in the week. Come on down. Right, let's go and enjoy the rest of our Saturday. Thanks very much for listening. If you got to this point, you're an absolute superstar. We appreciate all the comments, all the support we get, especially at times like these when we've got to stick together, try and have a bit of Gallus humour. But yeah, I'm not going to say up the topies today because you don't deserve it. But really appreciate everyone listening. Cheers to Dave. Cheers to Warren as well. If you did send something across, if you didn't, yeah, cheers anyway. Was nice one for going there. But yeah, mad sign off. Speak to you later. Bye bye.